The studio lights burned hot, cameras whirring quietly as millions tuned in across the country. It was supposed to be just another lively debate, full of laughter, disagreements, and sharp words. But no one expected the moment that would leave the entire audience in stunned silence. Whoopi Goldberg leaned forward in her chair, her voice sharp, carrying a mix of frustration and authority. "Senator Kennedy," she said, her eyes narrowing, "why don't you just go back to the Bayou where you came from?" The words hung in the air like a thunderclap. The crowd gasped. Some chuckled nervously. Others shifted uncomfortably in their seats. The insult wasn't just about geography, it cut deeper, touching on stereotypes and dismissing years of hard work, struggle, and the identity of a man who had risen from humble roots. John Kennedy, the Louisiana senator, didn't flinch. He didn't scowl, didn't raise his voice, didn't let anger cloud his expression. Instead, he folded his hands calmly on the desk before him, his eyes steady and thoughtful. The silence stretched until it felt unbearable. And then, with a voice even and warm, he began to speak. "I'll tell you something about the Bayou, Whoopi," he said slowly, his southern drawl steady and unshaken. "It's a place where people may not have much, but they share everything. It's a place where neighbors don't ask what part do you belong to before they pull you out of a flooded house. It's where my mama taught me the value of hard work, and where my daddy taught me to keep my word. It's a place full of resilience, heart, and people who never give up." The audience hushed. Even Whoopi shifted slightly, her expression softening just a fraction. Kennedy continued, his tone deepening with emotion. "So if by telling me to go back to the Bayou, you mean go back to my roots, to the place that made me who I am, then I say thank you. Because I carry those people with me every day I walk into the Senate chamber, and I'll never be ashamed of where I come from." For a moment, it was as though time itself had paused. The crowd broke into applause, not the polite clapping of TV audiences, but something raw, heartfelt, and thunderous. Even those who disagreed with Kennedy's politics couldn't deny the dignity, the strength, and the pride with which he had carried himself. Whoopi, caught off guard, leaned back in her chair. She had been in television long enough to know when a moment was bigger than a joke, bigger than a jab. "Well," she said after a pause, her tone gentler, "that was a broken bar beautifully said." The discussion moved on, but the air in the room had shifted. What was supposed to be a clash of personalities had turned into a reminder of something much greater: the power of respecting one's roots and responding to hostility not with fire, but with grace. Later that night, clips of the exchange flooded social media. Viewers from all sides of the political spectrum shared the moment, many writing comments like, "This is how you handle an insult with dignity." Others said, "I may not agree with Kennedy's policies, but I respect the man." Today, in Louisiana, families gathered around televisions and phones, proud to see their Bayou homeland defended not as a punchline, but as a badge of honor. Elderly men sitting on porches nodded approvingly, while young kids saw in Kennedy's calm response a lesson they'd carry for life. And that was the real story, and not the jab that started it, but the grace that ended it. In an era when anger so often shouts louder than respect, John Kennedy reminded everyone that true strength lies in holding onto your roots and refusing to be shaken by words meant to tear you down. By the time the night ended, people weren't just talking about politics. They were talking about dignity, heritage, and the kind of character that can turn an insult into inspiration. And whether you agreed with Kennedy or not, one truth was clear: sometimes the calmest voice in the room is the one that speaks the loudest.